Dawn finds a trail on my fence. I didn't leave. A black SUV slides over my land like a claim. She smiles, offers cash, then brings men with clipboards and cameras. By the time the dust settles, they've weaponized a map. I decide they don't get my land. They get a problem. The porch light blinked off before the sun finished yawning. Jonesy, my old hound, nosed his way into my boots. Like he always did, stubborn and practical. I held the coffee steady and listened for the kind of silence you can only earn living where the road turns to dirt and the sky gets big. It was the kind of quiet that reminds you this earth belongs to nobody who wears polished shoes. I found the tracks on the south gate. Deep, clean, wrong. Not the kind a tractor makes. Too precise, too new. A car the subdivision people keep straightening in their driveways. Something designed to look impressive and announce itself with embarrassment. I put the mug down, fingered the leather on my belt, and walked down the fence line. A camera hung on the T-post, one red eye blinking. Habit made me thumb my phone, pull to cleep. And there it was. Headlights. A boxy silhouette easing through the gate. A woman stepping out in heels like she had forgotten the ground was not a showroom floor. She wasn't alone. Two men in navy jackets with the kind of polite smirks that pretend to be friends but smell like paperwork. "Evening, Mr. Mercer," she said, all shine and rehearsed warmth. "I'm Evelyn Shaw, Willow Ridge, HOA. We're here about the future of this land." Her voice had been practiced in a studio where consequence didn't exist. Call-outs about cash followed the rehearsed welcome like vultures. "Above market value," one of them said, sliding a glossy map across the tailgate, as if paper could bury a family's memory. "Tei, kajedi an opportunity. I called it trespass, and I told them as much." Evelyn didn't blink. People like her have a way of smiling that's meant to swallow you whole. "We've done preliminary surveys," the man in the blazer chirped. Slid the map closer. "Survey a ribbons," I thought. That explains the orange flutter I'd found yesterday. That explains the ribbon that had been tied to my cedar branch like a laugh. These weren't mistakes. They were a test. I let the map sit in the sun and watched dust settle over their shoes. "This land's been in my family since '48, I said. "It ain't for sale." The words were a worn fence post, steady, familiar. They answered with patient persistence. "We'll be back," Evelyn promised. Like a weather forecast you've ignored until the storm is in your yard. They left with the polite nod of men who think a stamp settles property. I counted the minutes until my coffee cooled. That night, I unlocked the gun cabinet, not because I wanted to make a show, but because people who stroll through other men's gates don't stop. At offers, they escalate until the land is a memory someone else owns. Next morning, I found orange ribbons, like a crooked thread along my boundary, survey stakes, and a shallow channel where teeth had chewed at the earth's bulldozer breath, right at the line. Whoever had come through wasn't curious. They were assembling a narrative. Proof on paper. Boots on the dirt. Footage for the feeds. They wanted to make me the reaction in someone else's story. I pulled the drone from the barn. From up high the work looked deliberate. A narrow scar of a path. A soil rig parked where it had no right to be. Men with hard hats, marking things that weren't theirs. I watched them map my land like they already owned it. The drone fed me images, and a new certainty. This was no amateur hour. This was a campaign. Pause and hit subscribe if you want me to keep these southern fights raw and uncut. We're only getting started. Their next move came soft as a whisper. And twice as dangerous. A camera lens peeking from behind cedars. A man crouched waiting for the snap of my temper. They were baiting a story. Rancher loses it. Community outraged. Land becomes collateral in a moral panic. I didn't give them the show. I kept my hands empty, but my stance grave. "Who sent you?" I asked. The answer came like a name card tossed on a table. "Evelyn." They wanted a headline. What they didn't know was how long our land remembers. My father taught me how to read tracks like lines in a book. He taught me that every trespass writes itself into the weather, every insult into the fence. They had just written their challenge in fresh dirt. I wrapped the drone, pocketed the footage, and walked the line again. The ribbons came down. The tracks stayed. Someone had started a fight, and by dawn I knew we weren't walking away. The next chapter wouldn't be polite. It would be a counterpunch. Tomorrow, the certified letters show up, the accusations multiply, and a forged map appears that changes everything. The next morning rose slow and sticky. The kind of Texas heat that makes the sky feel like it's leaning on your shoulders. I was repairing a cracked float valve near the cattle pens when I heard the mail truck creeping up my drive. Not rolling. Creeping, a mailman, Dale, usually waved from the cab like he was calling a friend from across a bar. Today, he stepped out stiff, eyes down, holding a stack of envelopes, rubber-banded tight. "Cal, you're gonna want to sign for these," he murmured. "Certified mail, 11 envelopes, each stamped in red like warnings carved into stone." I signed, thanked him, and watched his truck speed away quicker than usual. The man looked relieved, just to be leaving my driveway. Inside the barn, I spread the envelopes over my workbench. Every single one carried the header: Willow Ridge Preserve Homeowners Association, Compliance and Enforcement. My jaw locked. I opened the first. Noise violation to 14 a.m. Ridiculous. Cattle sleep lighter than babies. If anything had been making noise on my ranch at that hour, I would have heard it. Next, envelope. Environmental waste, mismanagement, improper livestock sanitation. My cattle live cleaner than most manicured lawns on Evelyn's block. Another, unauthorized burning. Photographic evidence attached. The picture showed nothing but evening sunlight flaring off the metal lid of my burned barrel. No smoke, no fire, just a manipulated angle. I opened them all. 11 total, not one accusation even flirted with the truth. This wasn't enforcement, this was fabrication, but it was the final envelope, thicker, heavier, that made my stomach turn. Inside lay a glossy printed map titled Willow Ridge Expansion. Phase 2 development plan. My land, my southern acreage, was shaded pale green and labeled Future HOA, Managed Community Greenbelt, as if ownership were a formality, as if they had already planted flags in the dirt. My lungs tightened. I didn't yell, didn't curse. I just stood there, staring at ink, pretending to be destiny. I dialed Avery Collins. My attorney, he picked up on the second ring, voice sharp as barbed wire. "What did they send you?" Asked. 11 fake violations, I said, and a map showing half my land as theirs. Avery didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice had dropped into a darker register. "That's not a mistake, Cal. That's a blueprint for seizure. They're building a record to claim you're a threat to community stability." "This map," I whispered. "It's bold." "It's illegal," he snapped. "Keep that document somewhere safe. It's ammunition, and whatever you do, though, confront them today. Let them make the next wrong move." But instinct told me something. Evelyn wasn't the kind of woman who waited her turn. The sun dipped low, and the ranch shifted into that uneasy hush before coyotes start singing. Dinner tasted like cardboard. Even Jonesy stayed restless, pacing slow circles around the table. When night came, the air changed, heavy. Watching, holding its breath, I walked the house, checking locks not out of fear, but out of ritual. My father used to do the same whenever tension settled over land like storm fog. The dogs froze at the porch door, ears sharp, bodies tight. Their gaze pinned the southern fence line. Something glinted through the cedars. Not moonlight, not du a lens. Someone was watching my house. I stepped outside, boots sinking into warm dust. No flashlight, no raised voice, just a man walking toward an invisible line. The glint vanished, but a new sound rolled in behind it. A faint hum, mechanical, distant. Construction equipment running after dark. They weren't surveying anymore. They were staging. I went back inside and killed the lights. Sat at the kitchen table with the window open to the night. Jonesy coiled at my feet, trembling like the air itself had gone wrong. Avery's warning echoed. Don't let them provoke you. They want a temper. They want a scene. They want a villain. But they'd already decided who I was in their story. If you're still here, hit subscribe, because the next part gets loud, ugly, and more real than any HOA wants on record. Around midnight, the hum cut out. The night went stiff again. I didn't sleep. I listened. And at sunrise, the peace shattered. 3 white SUVs rolled onto my land like invading knights. No gate, knock, no hesitation. And this time, they didn't bring clipboards. They brought a crew built for confrontation. The survey crew crosses the line, a shotgun racks, and the county sheriff arrives with a story that isn't mine. Morning came to bright, too fast. I was on the porch, with a mug half full of cold coffee, when 3 white SUVs climbed the ridge like they'd been rehearsing their entrance. No hesitation. No shame. They rolled straight through the open gap I used for hay deliveries, and parked in a tight formation, the kind meant to look official, even when it wasn't. Doors flew open in unison. 6 men stepped out. Neon vests, hard hats, steel-toed boots. But these weren't workers who spent their days sweating on job sites. These were compliance contractors, the HOAS, favorite attack dogs, the kind of men hired for confrontation, not construction. I set the mug down, the tallest one thick around the middle, clipboard tucked under his arm like a badge, strutted forward. "Sir," he called loudly, without looking at me, "this is an active survey zone. You'll need to keep a safe distance." Active survey zone on my land. I walked toward them slow, boots crunching gravel, heat rising off the ground like a warning. I didn't yell, didn't threaten. Just closed the distance until the man had to look up. "You're trespassing," I said. They smirked. "We have authorization under Willow Ridge Phase 2. Preliminary partition." He tapped the clipboard. "Everything's documented." "Unless that document says my signature or a judge's order," I replied. "It's not worth the ink." Behind him, workers were unloading tripods and red-tipped stakes. One dropped a laser level into the grass, like he was marking off territory he believed he owned. I stepped closer. "Pack it up." The man's smile thinned. He exhaled through his nose, the kind of breath people take when they think they're dealing with someone beneath them. "Sir, if you continue obstructing authorized personnel, we will file this as non-compliance. Now, step aside." And then he made the same mistake they always make. He reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder. Not aggressively. Worse, condescendingly, like I was an old man blocking a grocery aisle. I looked down at his manicured fingers, then into his eyes. 2 seconds passed. He felt all of them. The hand snapped back, like he'd touched a live wire. "Primera Said," one word quiet enough to make the others listen. "Don't." I turned and walked back. Toward the house. Calm, slow, purposeful. They expected rage. They got discipline. Inside, I opened the gun cabinet. Not out of fury, out of clarity. My father once said, "When someone challenges your land, you show them you're not afraid to defend it. But you also show them you're not stupid." I grabbed the Remington. Not loaded, not waved around. Just held. Outside, the men paused. Midhama, eyes widened, tools dropped. I didn't raise the shotgun, didn't aim, didn't threaten. I simply racked it once. Chechunk. Metal on metal. The kind of sound that slices through arrogance like a blade. The leader froze. One worker stumbled backward so fast he tripped over a tripod. Another cursed and stepped behind the SUV. "Sir! Sir!" the leader shouted, voice cracking. We're leaving." They scrambled, tripping, fumbling, panicking. In less than a minute, they were peeling out, tires spitting gravel like machine gun fire. One SUV nearly clipped my fence post on the way out. Then, silence. I lowered the Remington gently and ejected the single shell. It landed softly in my palm, unfired, intentional. I slid it into my pocket. "This is Texas," I murmured. "We don't call 911 unless we need a witness." But the quiet didn't last. Not 10 minutes later, a faint siren rose over the ridge. 10 looter, 10 close. 2 county cruisers rolled up my drive, lights strobing across the yard like I was running a crime scene. I didn't move, didn't hide the gun, just stood on the porch, hands visible, coffee mug beside me like a witness. Deputy Mark Renner stepped out, a man who'd known my parents, a man who hated paperwork more than he hated heat. "Morning, Cal," he said. "Morning, Mark." His rookie partner had his hand hovering over his holster, eyes darting like I was a rattlesnake coiled on the porch. "We got a call," Mark said carefully. "Claims you aimed a shotgun at a survey crew. Threatened them. They were trespassing," I replied. "I never pointed the barrel at a soul." The rookie blurted, "You chambered around." Mark shot him a glare that could be split-wooed. I lifted my chin toward the barn. "Got porch cam footage. Everything's recorded." Muzzle pointed at the sky the whole time. Mark's shoulders eased. He knew who I was. He knew how I handled a gun. "Mind if I take the footage?" "Ask it." I handed him a USB drive. He nodded. "If it checks out, you're clean." Then he hesitated. "But Cal, don't poke the hornet's nest again today." He meant the HOA. He meant Evelyn. He meant the campaign building in the shadows. I didn't answer. Didn't need to, because as the cruisers pulled away, my phone buzzed with a notification. Then 10:50. Someone had filmed me racking that shotgun, and online they were already calling me a danger. The HOA launches a smear campaign, a forged map goes public, and a whistleblower risks everything to expose Evelyn's plan. Stay ready. The sheriff's cruisers hadn't even cleared the ridge before my phone lit up like a wildfire. 1 buzz, then 5, then 40. Notifications stacked so fast, the screen froze. I opened the first post. My face, grainy, zoomed, caught mid-step, shotgun in hand. Dust swirling behind me. Someone had filmed the moment those surveyors ran, then froze the frame to make me look like a madman charging at them. The caption screamed in red, "Armed rancher threatens community volunteers, police investigating." My jaw clenched. Primera scroll. He should be arrested. Unstable men like this shouldn't own land near neighborhoods. Red flag him now. Why does he even have a gun? They didn't know me. Didn't know this land. Didn't know anything but the story Evelyn fed them. Then came the worst comment, pinned by a Safer Communities Initiative group. Should the county evaluate the mental stability of isolated rural landowners? That wasn't a question. That was a trigger. A justification. A pretext. I'd seen strategies like this in politics, not neighbor disputes. Paint a man unstable, then rescue the land from him. It was psychological, eminent domain. The phone rang. "Avery." "Cal," he said sharply. "Stay off social media. Don't comment. Don't explain. They want you to react. Right now, they're building a narrative. They're calling me a public threat," I whispered, "and they will keep pushing until the county considers stepping in." Rage moved through me like heat lightning. "Avery," I said, "what am I dealing with here? An HOA or a cartel with a newsletter?" "Neither," he said. "You're dealing with people who think the rules don't apply to them." Before I could answer, Jonesy barked low. Warning. I glanced out the window. A news van sat on the public road. Camera pointed at my ranch like it was a crime scene. I saw the reporter speaking to the lens, gesturing toward my land. They weren't hiding anymore. The invasion had gone public. I didn't wave, didn't shout, didn't give them the clip they wanted. I stood still, arms crossed, a statue against the storm. The van stayed for 20 minutes, filming everything and understanding none of it. When they finally left, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the map Evelyn had mailed me. TA Fake 1. The one showing my southern acreage as HOA-controlled greenbelt. Ink pretending to be law. That's when the phone rang again, an unknown number. Usually, I let those go. This time, instinct told me to pick up. "Mr. Mercer," a woman said. Her voice was calm, steady, not scripted like a news anchor, not shaky like someone afraid. It was the voice of someone who hunts the truth. "My name is Linda Rowan," she said. "Independent investigative reporter. I've been tracking HOA corruption cases for years. Your situation," Seppo said, "rings too many bells." My grip tightened on the phone. "I don't believe the story they're selling about you," she continued. "I'd like to hear your side tonight." For the first time all week, something like hope flickered behind my ribs. "Meet me at the south gate," I said. 15 minutes. Linda arrived early. Silver sedan, dust blooming behind it in the moonlight. Jeans, boots, hair tied back. Not glamorous, not postured, a worker. The kind of person who doesn't flinch from truth. We walked the fence with a flashlight. She saw the crushed ribbons, the teeter roots, the abandoned stakes. "These weren't placed for measurement," she murmured. "They were placed for theater." Inside the barn, I showed her the porch footage, the drone clip, the trespass, the setup. She watched everything, leaning forward, breath slow. When the last video ended, she whispered, "Oh my God, this isn't a land dispute. This is a coordinated hostile acquisition." I nodded. "That's what I've been trying to tell everyone." She snapped photos, copied files, took notes with surgeonable precision. Then she said the words that changed the battlefield. "I'm publishing tonight." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. "Ethan, the whistleblower?" His voice was shaking so violently I could barely recognize it. "Cal, they're here." Glass shattered behind him. A thud. A yell. "They say I stole HOA property. They're pounding on my door, Cal. Please." The call dropped. Linda's eyes sharpened, already reading my face. "What happened?" "They found Ethan," I said, grabbing my keys. "Get in," she said. "I'm driving." We raced to rescue Ethan, discover what Evelyn has really done, and uncover a USB drive that blows the entire conspiracy wide open. This is where the story turns. Linda drove like the night owed her money. Gravel kicked up behind us in long silver arcs as her sedan tore through the dark. I kept replaying Ethan's last words, that trembling, breathless play over and over until they stopped sounding like a call and started sounding like a countdown. He lived behind an old gas station in a duplex that looked like it had been built by someone who believed drywall was optional. Usually the place blended into the world like a dusty afterthought. Not tonight. Not as we turned down his street. 2 men stepped away from his front door. Big. Thick. Wearing construction vests, but not the cheap neon kind you pick up at a hardware store. These were custom, weighted, stiff, the kind with pockets built to hide tools that aren't tools, and their clipboards weren't clipboards. They were impact boards, hard shell, metal corners, intimidation devices wrapped in office supply camouflage. "Linda, slow. Those Evelyn's people," she whispered. 100%. They climbed into a dark SUV, no headlights, and slid away like oil down a gutter. Linda parked 3 houses down. We moved fast but quiet, feet barely hitting pavement. Ethan's door was cracked open. Not broken, cracked, the way a scared man opens it for help he isn't sure is coming. "Ethan," I called. Voice low, controlled. "No one swear." I pushed the door the rest of the way open with 2 fingers. He sat on the floor against the wall, shaking so hard the lamp beside him buzzed against the table. His breath, hitched like every inhale, cost him something. "Cal," he whispered. They said, if I talk, if I testify, they'll ruin me. They said they'd tell the police I forged everything." He covered his face with both hands. His fingers trembled. His voice cracked, but he kept talking, like letting the truth out was the only way to keep the fear in check. "They said they know where my kids go to school." My jaw locked so hard my teeth hurt. "Where are they now?" Linda asked gently. "Safe," Ethan whispered. "At my mother-in-law's. I sent them this morning. Didn't know why. Just felt wrong." I knelt beside him. "You did right." He lifted his eyes to mine. Eyes rimmed red. Eyes of a man who'd spent years being stepped on by people who never expected him to stand back up. "She framed me, Cal," he whispered. "She make me the thief. The liar. The criminal." "Not if we move first," Linda said. His head dropped. "I'm not brave. I don't fight." I put a hand on his shoulder. "You told the truth, Ethan. That's more fight than most people ever manage." He nodded. "Barrier." Linda helped him up. We grabbed his laptop, a duffel bag, and a banker's box full of documents he'd been too afraid to throw away but too scared to turn in. We slipped through the back alley and into Linda's car. Ethan stared out the window the whole ride, chest heaving like his ribs were too tight for his lungs. When we reached my ranch, I opened the gate and locked it behind us. Double chain, reinforced bar. Not because I was scared, but because now I had two people to protect. "You're staying in the guest room," I told him. No argument. He just nodded a tired, fragile nod, but it was enough. Linda joined me outside beneath the porch light. "This is bigger than a land grab," she said. "It's coordinated coercion. These tactics, they're used when someone wants something badly enough to break laws to get it." "And Evelyn wants my land," I said. "No," Linda corrected softly. "She wants your land because someone bigger already bought it on paper." The words sank into the dirt like rain. We went inside. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, eating in small, shaky bites. First food he'd touched all day. Linda opened her laptop and began pulling files from Ethan's phone, laptop, flash drives. Then Ethan spoke, voice quieter than a prayer. "There's one more thing." He reached into his duffel and pulled out a small silver USB drive, setting it on the table like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "What's on it?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "Everything." Linda plugged it in. A folder opened. Blueprints, purchase agreements, emails, meeting notes, slideshow decks, transfer documents. And at the center of all of it, a development map stamped with the logo of Cypress Ridge Capital, not the fake map Evelyn mailed me. Tyria 1, the one showing my southern acreage, divided, numbered, sold. Sold before Evelyn ever approached me. Sold using my land as collateral for millions. Linda whispered, "Jesus." Ethan finally said it. "She told investors she already had your signature. She took the deposit. She spent the commission." This wasn't HOA politics. This was criminal fraud, and Evelyn had bet her entire empire on the belief that she could break me before anyone noticed. Linda closed the laptop slowly, like handling unstable dynamite. "We take this to court tomorrow," she said, "and we don't go quietly." I looked out at my land, the dark tree line, the quiet fields, the fences my grandfather hammered into place. Tomorrow would decide everything. The courthouse showdown, the judge who sees through Evelyn's lies, and the truth that finally tears her empire apart. The ending is here. Friday morning didn't feel like morning. It felt like a held breath, the whole county waiting to see which way the truth would break. Linda rode with Ethan in her car while I followed behind in my truck, keeping distance just in case anyone got bold enough to tail us. Avery waited at the courthouse side entrance, suit sharp, jaw tight. He nodded at us like a general accepting his troops before battle. "Everyone ready?" he asked. Ethan whispered. "No," I answered. "Yes." Avery smirked. Good balance. Inside, the courtroom looked carved out of old Texas oak benches. High windows full of sunlight, dust motes drifting like slow snow. Judge Raleigh McClure sat at the bench, boots visible under his robe, silver mustache sharp enough to slice arrogance in half. Evelyn was already there. Perfectly ironed blazer, jewelry subtle but expensive. Expression carved from granite, her lawyers flanked her like shiny crows. The moment she saw me, her lips curved not into a smile, but into a warning. The bailiff called the case. Evelyn's attorney strutted forward, rehearsed confidence dripping off every syllable. Your Honor, the defendant is an armed threat to our community. Judge McClure held up one finger. Son, he said calmly, what county you driven in from? The attorney blinked. Houston. Your Honor, explains the perfume, the judge muttered. Now try talking like a human instead of a press release. Snickers rippled through the room. The lawyer swallowed and started again, slinging accusations so dramatized they belonged on a cable drama. Violence, instability, endangerment, threats against volunteers. Then Avery stood. The entire room shifted. Avery didn't just speak. He delivered. Your Honor, he began, we have evidence. Judge McClure leaned back. Good, I like evidence. Cuts down on horse manure. Laughter rolled through the benches again. Avery dimmed the lights and played the porch footage. The full clip. Me standing still. Shotgun angled skyward. Survey crew trespassing. Workers scattering like pigeons. The judge tapped the bench with a knuckle. Well now, he said, that shotgun ain't pointed at nobody on God's green earth. He eyed Evelyn's table. Looks to me like a man having his coffee interrupted. Her lawyer tried to object. Judge McClure shut him down with a single glance, powerful enough to drop cattle. Then Avery produced the fake map Evelyn had mailed me, the one showing my land labeled as HOA managed greenbelt. Your Honor, Avery said, this map is fabricated. The judge looked at it the way a rancher looks at a snake in his chicken coop. That right there, he said, is the kind of stupidity that burns down whole neighborhoods before breakfast. Evelyn stiffened. Avery wasn't done. Your Honor, we also have this. Linda dimmed the lights again. A new map appeared on screen clearer, stamped with the developer's logo, Cypress Ridge Capital. The real Phase 2 plan, the one showing my land, my southern acreage, carved into house lots. Blocks 4A through 4F sold. Not proposed. Not planned. Not hypothetically zoned. Sold. Judge McClure's eyebrows rose. Miss Shaw, he said slowly, would you care to explain how you sold land you don't own? Her throat bobbed. She didn't answer. Avery stepped forward like a man lowering the blade. This, he said, was done 3 weeks before Evelyn ever approached my client. Investors were told Mr. Mercer had already agreed. Deposits were taken. Commissions spent. The courtroom rippled like a windstorm through wheat. Then Avery called Ethan Brooks to the stand. He walked up, shaking so badly the bailiff steadied him. But when he got to the mic, something inside him settled. He told everything. The intimidation, teeth, the forged documents. The orders Evelyn barked behind closed doors, the deposit money she pocketed, the pressure to frame me as unstable. When he finished, the room was silent. Silent in that way a room gets when everyone realizes they're watching someone get caught under the weight of their own lies. Judge McClure leaned forward, elbows on the bench. Miss Shaw, he said quietly, the dangerous quiet. Every accusation you flung at this man is a steaming pile of nonsense. A Texasized pile. Bung. The gavel cracked. Case dismissed. Full dismissal. With prejudice. Gasps. And your actions, he continued, are being referred to the district attorney. Fraud, harassment, attempted title theft, witness intimidation. Let the DA sort the rest. Evelyn's face didn't fall. It collapsed. The judge pointed a boot at her table. And, Maham, you or any of your HOA cowboys step foot on Mr. Mercer's land again. I'll show you what trespass laws were invented for. Bong, Casey. Outside, cameras swarmed like hornets. Linda filmed everything. I stepped to the microphones, said only 5 words. Truth wins. Eventually, always. Then, I walked away. Driving home, my land rose over the horizon, fences shining in the late sun, cattle drifting like shadows across gold fields. The ranch felt lighter, almost breathing again. At the gate, the same one Evelyn's people had walked through, the same one they tried to claim with paper and pressure, I stepped out of the truck. laid my hand on the top plank. The wood was warm. Riam, Minai. I closed the gate slowly. The latch clicked. Sharper than any gavel. Final as any verdict. This land, I whispered, stays mine. The wind rustled the grass like applause, and for the first time in weeks, the ranch felt like home again.